Network is it.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Thursday, September 8, 2022. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, live on the Black Star Network. Another black man in Columbus, Ohio is killed by police. What is going on in that particular city? We'll talk about that. Today, folks, we lost three individuals. Queen Elizabeth died. Why are people afraid to talk about colonialism, even with her passing? Longtime comedian Bernard Shaw passed away. Also, comedian David Arnold died yesterday at the age of 54. We'll discuss all three on today's show. Hundreds of law enforcement officers and military members are members of the Oath Keepers. Folks, we'll look at who some of these people are and break down what the ADL uncovered about these law enforcement folks in the Oath Keepers. Also, a Maryland woman whose child was handcuffed, a 5-year-old child was handcuffed. She's going to get $300,000. Also on today's show, a New York district attorney wants to throw out 400 cases that were handled by a corrupt cop. Also, a South Carolina state representative has some harsh words for her colleagues in that state. We'll show you what she had to say. And folks, again, we'll also, cover news of the day, give updates on what's happening in Jackson, Baltimore with their water issue. It is time to bring the funk. I'm Roland Martin Unfiltered of the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
All right, folks, I'm in the nation's capital. Yes, I'm not in the office yet because I'm stuck behind. Looks like President Biden or Vice President Kamala Harris's motorcade. I think it's the president's motorcade. So they've got locked up. So I've been waiting for the president's motorcade. So that's why I am coming live from the car. Hey, yeah. All right, folks. Let's talk about Columbus, Ohio, where a black man got killed by police, unarmed 20-year-old black man, shot and killed by cops on August 30th. The officer at Donovan home around 2 in the morning to arrest him on 3 separate charges: domestic violence, assault, and improper handling of a firearm. Now, folks, I want to warn you about this body cam video I'm about to show you because it is disturbing and can be triggering. And so what happened was Officer Ricky Anderson fired the fatal shot at him. Now, we couldn't find a picture of Anderson who has been on administrative leave since the shooting, but this is the body cam footage of the cops were entering the home, and this is what happened to Donovan.
Yeah, there's somebody back there. That dog's gonna bite you if you don't come out.
I'll move up.
Okay, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Somebody got taser.
He's got gun. Doors shut. Doors shut. Knocking him up.
Here, I'm gonna lock him up and leave. Here.
Ready, I'll get another car.
Here. You want to watch them? Now I'm worried that the back door.
No.
There's two windows. Another AC unit, the last one.
We're gonna send that dog in.
That's 43D 91960.
Hands. Come in. Oh.
919.
He's got some in his hand. Some in his hand. Hands. Hands.
Let me see your right hand. Come like this.
Crawl out here. Crawl out. Crawl out.
I'm going.
Crawl out here. Get your hands up. All right, cover me. I'm gonna go in.
I got you.
Hold on.
I can come up like this. But I mean,
I need cuffs. I'm out of cuffs. Hands behind your back. Do it now. Hands behind your back. Call for a 24. Hands.
4310 started at 24.
Get your hand behind. Stop resisting. He's pulling away.
104,
Yes.
we're on the 3.
Stomach.
okay. You want me to go near that?
Yep.
That's 43, what do you need a medic for? That's 43, we need a medic in here. Officer involved. No, the officer involved.
All right. Glove up. Start rendering aid. Don't move, bud. I had gloves. I don't know where they went.
There's 2 cars that are here. We have people that need detained.
Let's get them out here.
We need gloves.
That's my thing. I'll take the scene. You just worry about everybody else.
Pat him down. Pat him down. Make sure he's good.
Move up special service over there for officer support. Copy. 91 AM officer support 2.
Hold on, bud. Hold on, bud.
All right. Let's get him out to the medic.
You want to carry him out?
Yep. Jack. Grab his feet. You're all right, buddy.
You're all right. We got that. We're coming out.
Coming out.
We're
Watch
coming
out.
out with them. We need those guys detained in there. Yep. Or in a car.
1 2. 1 2. I'm 2 Vic's off of that.
Hold on.
I head up to 1 7.
Go. At a news, Donovan's mother and brother talked about the kind of person he was.
Donovan had the biggest heart. You'll hear that over and over again from many different people who touched him in his life in different places and in different ways, whether it's a teacher, a coach, one of his best friends. He cared about others. He was active in the community, both volunteering alongside the rest of us, and he also he wanted other people to be well. Whether he didn't have anything himself, he would share the last of, whether it would be food, money, whatever he had, to make sure that others were safe and protected to the best of his ability.
The last week has been very tough. There's a plethora of emotions, from being sad to angry to fear, the fear that it can happen to you as well. It's not okay. And over the time I've been able to grieve and reflect, and I've been looking at pictures of Donovan and I, and there's one picture that stands out, and it's It's Donovan in, I think, like 2015, and when he's at a protest, and it's right here, and it's crazy to see that someone who's passionate and adamant about those type of things, like, that can happen to them as well. Like, he knew, like, this is not something that's he was oblivious to. We know these things happen, but we're still here asking the same questions. Why? Like, we put in money, we put in manpower, like, and nothing changes ever. It's the same thing. Like, as people said last week was the 3rd police shooting in 10 days. Like, it's not okay. Like, things do need to change, and we all know it.
Rex Elliott is the Lewis family attorney. He's joins us right now from Columbus, Ohio. Rex, glad to have you on the show. This is what I always go back to. That is, how can police apprehend someone without having to shoot and kill them?
Yeah, you break it out a little bit, but the reality is in this situation, there were so many things wrong, Roland, that had to happen for this 20-year-old kid to be shot and killed, unarmed kid to be shot and killed, serving warrants in the middle of the night on a misdemeanor charge. Even the alleged felony charge was a year old. There was no emergency for this in the middle of the night. They created a chaotic situation that deteriorated really quickly. And then at the end of the day, Roland, the reality is that police officer opened that door, and Donovan was trying to get out of bed in response to police commands. They were telling him to come out. He was getting out of bed, and he shot and killed him. And there's just no call for it whatsoever. And then after he was shot and killed, the manner in which they treated this kid, they treated him like a piece of meat. He should have been rendered aid immediately. They should have had EMS. They had a fire station right across the street. They could have had first responders there right away. Instead, they messed around. They accused him of resisting arrest when he couldn't even move, and they dragged him out of the house. It's just absolutely despicable what happened here.
So, 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't understand that. You can't do that at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or 6 p.m. I don't get that.
I don't get it either, and it's got to stop. The chief police here in Columbus, Ohio, Elaine Bryant, immediately after this said that it's important to serve these in the middle of the night to ensure that the people that they are seeking are at home. Reality is that's nonsense. Arrest warrants are served in daylight hours all the time. Heck, there are judges and magistrates that refuse to sign a warrant unless it's being executed during the daylight hours. There was no reason for this to happen in the middle of the night other than the fact that they knew that they were going into an underserved minority community, and it's my theory that their hope was that they'd find additional illegal activity there. There was no reason for it. Had this happened at 10 o'clock in the morning in the broad daylight, none of this would have happened.
Or even do it at 9 p.m. I mean, if you're saying let's ensure someone's home, but the idea 2 a.m., and we could talk about the cases out of Minneapolis. We could talk about cases all over the place. Individuals are sleeping and they pull the covers up. Cops say, oh, we saw a flash. It ended up being a cell phone. If you wake somebody up, the natural instinct, if somebody busts in and I'm dead asleep, I got 2 cell phones right next to my bed. My phones stay right next to me. If cats bust in, my natural inclination is to grab my phone and call the cops.
100%. And think about this 20-year-old kid, too, who, by the way, was a social activist here in Columbus. He was protesting a police shooting in 2015. He was passionate about these types of issues. And here you have a 20-year-old black kid in an underserved community who is woken up in the middle of the night, 2:30 in the morning, with dogs bearing down on his room, multiple police officers with weapons. He's behind that door. He's sound asleep. He wakes up at some point. It's one of two things. They either rouse him out of his sleep, he looks confused in the video, or they get him up a little earlier because he hears the dog barking and the kid's terrified behind that door because the kid knows what happens to black kids in America these days. He's heard the stories. He's seen the stories. I think you're 100% right. Even at 9 p.m., something like this doesn't happen.
So what were the actual charges? What were they for?
Yeah, again, you're breaking out a little bit, but
the charges here. What were they for?
I'm sorry, you broke out.
The charges.
Yes, the charges that they were there for, allegedly, we know of, was a misdemeanor domestic violence, which was misdemeanor. It was not a serious charge at all, and it was disputed. The other was allegedly a gun charge from a year earlier, where Donovan was in the car with some other passengers. Police pulled the car over. Everybody else in the car took off, and Donovan stayed at the scene like he was taught to do. A gun was found in the car, and he was charged with possession of a firearm. It wasn't even his. None of these allegations obviously have been proven. That allegation, even the gun charge, was a year old. There was no danger whatsoever. No reason, no exigent circumstance, no emergency to serve this warrant at 2:30 in the morning and literally create the chaotic situation that occurred inside that apartment.
That is absolutely unbelievable. Rex Elliott, we appreciate you. Rex, what happened?
Thank you very much for your time, Roland. You're doing great work. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Folks, I'm going to bring my panel, Erica Savage with the Reframe Grant, Cobra Black, Dr. Greg Carr, Department of Afro-American Studies. So, Erica, we go through this over and over and over again. We had the mayor of Columbus on, so we had Columbus has a problem. Columbus has a problem with police shooting, and it just continues. It continues over and over and over again. Erica, you got me?
It was breaking up a little bit, but I did hear where you said Columbus.
Erica, what I'm saying is Columbus has a problem with these shootings. Like, repeat it with the mayor on. It's like, how does this department black men?
Yeah, Columbus does have a problem, and America really has a problem. This is something that we're seeing in communities all over these United States. And, to continually hear that person that's described is always someone who is Black, is always someone who is quote unquote in an underserved community. Those are real telltale signs of who the police believe that they can menace and get away with it from. We just saw video footage here last week where we saw the police up close and personally shoot a person who was in a wheelchair into his death. And so when we talk about underserved communities, thinking about those who are disabled, thinking about those who are struggling to pay their bills. I saw the young man is working, at fast food restaurants. So, trying to put food on the table, things of that nature. We continue to see these demographics of people that are harmed by police officers. And so the way in which we saw the officer disrespect the young man after shooting him to death is the way that we have become so accustomed to seeing Black bodies handled, those who are in underserved communities handled. The only way that we're really going to get any remedy around this, and we've talked about this largely on this show as well, Columbus, Ohio is a microcosm for what we're seeing all about the country, is that there are real consequences for these killers, because that's essentially what they are. They were fully armed. They have the element of surprise. They have a dog, and then it's two of them to go and serve a misdemeanor and a felony warrant against a 20-year-old young person. When we see all of that type of arm going into the space of someone who they already know has a decent amount of fear with regard to the police because he's been active in protest, as we've heard his family say before, and just being a part of the American experience in general, it really leads us to say that if there is not something immediately done about these badged killers, they're not going to stop in the disabled, in the Black, in the poor community. They're really, really going to continue to wage wars against communities that they feel that they have the ability to continue to menace. So this is really another person that is in the grave way too soon because of unhinged assassinators.
Oh.
Sorry, Roland. You breaking up a little.
That's a. Oh, we want.
Okay. I think I got the gist of it in terms of the excuses they're giving. We certainly heard the Franklin County folks talk about, you know, we have to wait, we have to see. And I agree with everything, of course, Erica has said. That young man, Donovan Lewis, was dead the minute those three killers got out of their cars. They went into that house to kill him. How do we know? Ricky Anderson, that piece of dog feces, who approached the bedroom door with his gun drawn, one of the three killers, the one who fired the shot and who was being rewarded now with paid administrative leave for his good service in service of the devilish project of white supremacy. That devil entered with his gun drawn and continued, if we see here in the video, to try to sick the dog on that door. Now, of course, when you enter, as you say, in the middle of the night, any human being would be startled. So when we see Ricky Anderson engaged in his devilish object, in his devilish mission of killing, if young brother Donovan had come out of the room into the dog, he would have been shot. Because even if he had come out very quietly, turning that corner, appearing would have been enough for him to be shot. Notice how the devils follow a script. So come out, the dog's gonna bite you. This is the middle of the night, man. So I'm gonna be startled like, what? The minute you come out, you're dead. Next, he shoots him and they go into the devil's script. Stop resisting. Stop resisting. Okay, that's what you're trained to say, the training. People talk about training. Okay, all the people talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, anti-racism. Okay, it's time for you to be quiet right now and pay attention to the devil's script of murder that we just heard. Stop resisting. And then next, I'm looking for gloves. Why? Because they want to make sure that if he has some type of bloodborne disease or something, that they don't catch it. You see, what if we lived in a world where every time the killer pulls out their weapon to shoot, that bullet enters wherever the killer has aimed at the person they tried to kill? So when Ricky Anderson, the piece of dog feces, who killed Donovan Lewis, had shot, instead of penetrating Donovan Lewis's chest, it penetrated Ricky Anderson's chest. Of course, I'll leave that to the people writing fantasy fiction, at least in the short term. But then next in the script, we hear pat him down. This man is moaning as his life ebbs out of him, but we hear pat him down. Why? Because he still constitutes a threat. And then finally, as we heard you discuss with the attorney, and as you say, Erica, they took him out like the disposable thing that he was. They're very calm. Minister Aid. No, that's just for the script. And then they toted him out like he was garbage to the trash. This is not going to stop.
No.
It is not going to stop until they fear for their own worthless lives. This man's on paid administrative leave. While we're on here talking, he's somewhere sitting his ass up, high-fiving his buddies, and getting paid. This will only be stopped when he's dead for killing someone, either by the death penalty or when somebody invents a gun that when you aim it at me and try to blow my brains out, when it's headed for my head, it comes into yours and explodes it like a melon, you piece of dog shit.
Reese, I say this all the time when we have these police shootings. You cannot come back from death. Mm-hmm. And if you're the police chief, you've got to say, folks, we can't have somebody die on some misdemeanor warrants. I mean, the goal is not to kill. The goal is to arrest or apprehend. And again, I go back to it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. Why? Why 2 o'clock in the morning? Naturally, any natural person is going to be dead sleep. And the reality is, and we know from all the rest of these shootings, they bust in, you can't make no move. There is no natural instinct. If I am asleep where I don't jump up, grab something, as I said, most people, they go to sleep with their cell phones right next to them. Thought they're reaching for a gun. You are in absolute no man's land. You're DOA.
Right. I mean, well, you said a couple of things that are key. You said we can't have people. Well, we already know that we're not humans to them. There are no humans involved, just like it's dog eats dog as far as that cop was concerned. You said you can't people kill for misdemeanors. Why not? Who gonna check them? Why not? If they want to, they absolutely can. And they do. And we see it over and over again. Every week we talk about it. Every day we talk about it. So who's going to check them?
Yeah.
So they don't have to give that direction because they're doing as they're designed to do. They're in these roles, we're going to talk about it later, oath keepers, to do exactly what they're doing.
Yep.
So the reality is that the standard is don't be black, don't be half black, don't be next to black people if you don't want your ass to get shot. The standard is we can do whatever the hell we want to do when we want to do it, and ain't nobody gonna do a damn thing about it because you black, or you half black, or you close to somebody black. That's just the way that the system goes, unfortunately, until something changes. And what we have right now is we have open season from these cops, and nothing is going to change that until something changes it. And I don't think it's going to be legislation.
Well, and again, what you can have is leadership offering excuses for that. I want to pull this up. This is a story. There's a white soldier who was on trial. Give me a second. I'm trying to pull it up here. And named first of all, look at this damn name. His name is Killian Ryan. Was arrested on August 26th. He was arrested. He was a former paratrooper. And he said he enlisted in the military to learn how to better kill black people.
I believe it.
Sure.
That's what he said, Erica. To learn how to better kill black people.
Serve with him. I believe him.
You said you served with him. Explain that for folks who don't know.
With folks like that, so, first and foremost, my father was in the military, so I have a background. So, we base housing, moving from base to base. And my father was always, one thing that I appreciated about my father was always brutally honest. He came into the Marine Corps at a time where there were very, very few black people that were in the Marine Corps. Their basic training was substantially longer than any of the branches of the service. And they were known for being brutal killers. Like that was what they were being trained to do. And so when he came in, there wasn't any protection. It was like, oh, if you black and you come in, if you survive, then congratulations, we might consider you a Marine. But as we, move from base to base, like my father would have these real serious conversations with us around why the element of our home was the way that it was. And what I mean by the element of our home is that, even though, we're, as we would say in the armed forces, we're armed, we're all one. We know that anywhere anybody goes, I don't care what institution, what corporation, that we're always black first. And so my father was very, very adamant about us realizing that no matter where we went, no matter what our family function was, that we were first black. And so some of the conversations that we would then hear, like especially as I moved into the military, were not as surprising because I knew that those people were in the military from the time that I was a military brat. So there are things that you learn that though you may be stationed with someone, you're all on this living facility, that people still see you for who you are first. And so even though there may be a working relationship, you keep that working relationship very much so segregated, because then you don't want to allow, or one does not want to allow who that person really is to show up in a way of comfort where they could possibly cause harm to you or your family. So when I saw those people when I was in the military, I stayed away. We do what we need to do at work, but there was no getting close. There was no fraternizing, as they would say in the military, with that person, because I knew essentially that they would do, they would cause harm if they had the opportunity to.
We're going to take a break because we're going to continue this conversation, because we're going to talk about this leaked list of Oath Keep members and what it has revealed. Police chiefs, sheriffs, folks in the military who are members of this racist organization. We'll discuss that next, right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
Can you believe the nerve of these Republicans? They only want to block progress for our community. They talk about cutting Medicare and Social Security. They played politics with veterans' health care. They voted against the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act and funding for our HBCUs, and against lowering prescription drug costs for our seniors. These Republicans keep trying hard to stand in the way, but President Biden, Vice President Harris, and Democrats won't let them. They are delivering for us. The Democratic National Committee is responsible for the content of this advertising.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Pull up a chair, take your seat at the Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Hey
everybody, it's your girl Lunel.
So what's up? This is your boy Earthquake.
Hi, I'm Chaley Rose, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Elite member list of the far-right extremist group Oath Keepers. They are accused of playing a significant role in the January 6th domestic terror attack on the U.S. Capitol. Has the names of hundreds of U.S. law enforcement officers, elected officials, members of the military. When we talk about law enforcement, folks, we're talking about sheriffs, police chiefs, and others. The Anti-Defamation League's Center on Extremism sifted through more than 38,000 names on the Elite Oath Keepers membership list and identified more than 370 people it believes currently work in law enforcement agencies, more than 100 who are presently members of the U.S. military, and about 80 who are running or serve in public office. Some of the names the ADL discovered: Thomas Rummel, Sanders County, Montana Sheriff; Joe Wright, Collin County, Texas. Collin County, y'all, that's Plano, Texas. That's Dallas, okay? Constable Bradley Rogers, Elkhart County, Indiana County Commissioner. Wendy Rogers, Arizona State Senator. Phil Jensen, South Dakota State Representative. Bob Gaiuta, New Hampshire State Senator. Idaho State Representative Chad Christensen. Alaska State Representative David Eastman. Major Eben Bratcher, Yuma County, Arizona Sheriff's Office. Lieutenant Philip Mercurio, City of Pittsburgh, Sergeant Michael Lynch, Anaheim, California Police Department. The list goes on and on and on. This here, greatly significant, Reese. And here's the deal. We've known this for quite some time. This is not the first time we've known this. We did the story here where the group uncovered this private Facebook group of officers from all around the country, St. Louis and Philadelphia, other places, where they were making racist remarks, sexist remarks in this private Facebook chat room. We know it was in San Francisco where officers were busted for making racist remarks. The Cincinnati police officer just fired for using the N-word. Chicago cops using the N-word. There were Orlando officers that were fired for racist comments as well. The fact of the matter is, in law enforcement in this country, the military in this country, there are racists, there are individuals who are part of these far-right militia groups. And it was interesting because one of these sheriffs said, oh, yeah, I was a member, but I left because I felt their language was too incendiary. Really? Really? So between the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys and the rest of these groups, they're all the same.
Absolutely. But what it really goes to is the fact that these people are not just sitting around having a beer, being buddies. These people want institutional power. And that's what we have to be concerned about, because these are people that are running for office. These are people that are police officers, people with badges that can go around killing people or harassing people, and just having their way. And so I think it just goes to show, again, how we need to be in these institutions as well, because I don't want a bunch of white overseers, whether it's cops, prosecutors, judges, or elected officials. And so, they're leaving no stone unturned in this battle for white supremacy, in this battle for white nationalism, in this battle for the government and power, every facet of power, military, police, elected. That's the main facets of power that you have. And they have every single part covered. We need to make sure that we are diligent about keeping them out of these spaces, and we need to make sure that we're diligent about getting into these spaces and holding our own damn power.
Greg, you had members of Congress who were highly critical of Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin because he was trying to rid the military of these racists. And these fools objected. They wouldn't even vote for it. He was trying to rid them of these white supremacists, these anti-Semitic folk, and Republicans were like, we're too woke. Why are you focusing on this? Really? So that tells you right there who today's Republican Party sides with.
Yeah, and unfortunately, today's Democratic Party, too. And today is a day I think we are reminded of that, even as this 96-year-old Queen of England goes off to meet her ancestors. And I hope on her journey that it's peaceful, and then when she gets there, they have a segregated heaven so that she don't run into the millions of non-white people who she ruled over for 70 years. But there will be people who stop and say, well, we should, she was the queen. We'll just pay our respects. Okay, it's the same thing. Let me make the connection. And what Reese said is very important for us to understand. Institutions that do not protect you are not institutions that serve you. When I say the Democratic Party, too, I don't mean the Democratic Party is like the white nationalist party. What I mean is, unless you're going to take action against white nationalism, you are supporting soft white nationalism. There is no protocol and there is no decorum when someone has their foot on your neck. These white nationalists are determined, as Reese said, to rule or ruin. They have weaponized beyond the paddle rollers who are in uniform. And again, we're obsessed with uniforms because of the slave mentality we've been given. That's why some people gonna cry crocodile tears when they see Charles III, the new king, in a uniform, and everybody in uniforms. They just love watching uniform. We have been trained to respect the uniform. Well, we should have no respect for the uniform. And that includes people who ostensibly say they are on our side, who do not take action and break the back of white nationalism. Now, these oath keepers, we heard the sheriff there in Chesterfield County, Virginia, Sheriff Stewart, evoke First Amendment rights. They have First Amendment rights. Understand the strategy now is to use the First Amendment to weaponize every white nationalist in the country. This is why they say, I'm not giving you a cake if you gay. This is why they say, I get to come out and scream in your face and spit in your face, and you can't do anything about it. Take it back to Reconstruction and the Cruikshank case, when they murdered black people in Louisiana and then said, well, it wasn't really race. It was them in a political assembly. The point I'm trying to make is this. The Oath Keepers are not criminals. They are supported and abetted by the structure of this government at every level. Black people are not safe in the United States of America. We're not only hunted, as Reese said, by those in uniform. We are not protected by those who ostensibly claim to be against them, because when these white nationalists and their full-throated white nationalism stand up in legislatures and refuse to do anything about it, well, then everybody else says, well, we'll just have to keep fighting. We'll just keep trying to persuade them. We're fighting for the soul of America. It has no soul. Either you break the back of white nationalism, or this country is going to explode, because people will finally get the message that the only thing we can count on to protect ourselves is us. And at that point, you don't have a country. And perhaps you shouldn't have a country.
Erica, the reason, and I'll explain this here, the reason I chose this particular photo, and I picked the photo, because what this image shows is, give me I want to see the image. This is what I want to see. Look at this here. This is a white man in front of the Capitol, and his arms are outstretched. And what he is actually saying is, this is ours. That image right there of his head tossed back and arm, this is ours. And that's what January 6th was all about. That's what this book is about. That's what these Oath Keepers is about. That's what the Proud Boys are about. And that's why the Republican Party is aligned with these people, because they are their voters. That's what Charlottesville was about. And we can go on and on and on. Their entire being, this is ours. And I play that clip all the time from The Good Shepherd. And I play it for a reason, because just that scene tells us exactly who these people are. When Joe Pesci says, we the Italians got this, the Jews got this, he uses the N-word to describe black people. We couldn't even be called, we would call the N-word. He said, they got their music. He said, what do y'all people have? And Matt Damon's Wasp character says, we've got the United States of America. The rest of you are just visiting. That right there, that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, I can remember the Wall Street Journal. I believe it was back in 2013, and on the cover, it was a profile of the first Daddy Bush, the last of the WASP. And so it was, another kind of telltale sign of what has always been, which is this really need for raw, naked, as we've said on this show so many times before, power. And that's what I think the power behind your book, Roland. I'm so excited about the hardcover. We're getting that next week. And then Reese's second book, The Must Race Watches. All of this is coming at a time where people really do need to sit themselves in the reality of what's happening. The reality of what's happening is, you know, we look at Donovan Lewis and we saw his mother speaking before that crowd. Usually when there's a Black body that has been assassinated by the police, we're normally looking at Black mothers and Black fathers. We were looking at a mother that was not Black. All of to let you know that white supremacy or white nationalism, excuse me, because it's not supreme, but white nationalism is really only interested in power and those that will bend to it. And so you have those components that are willing to bend to it to make sure it stays intact, one of which is law enforcement. You know, lest we forget that in 2006, the FBI had a report that talked about the insurgence of white nationalism, folks who were in local police departments, in the military. And then we had in 2020, around this same month, there were a series, I think it was a 4-part congressional hearing that happened around local police units. And what was the big topic? It was talking about confronting white supremacy in local police departments. And so there, that whole Reese asked who gonna check me, boo, that is their stock and trade. They've not been checked. Administrative leave is not checked. That's our money, making sure that they still continue to get a check. And so until there's something done to ensure that these fools know that if you even think about it, if you get out of line, there is a price to be paid. This is what we're going to continue to see. We know that they make sure that they stay involved in politics on the local, the state, the congressional level. Their master, the son of a Klansman, has really invigorated them in a way where they really have become one with the fact that if you're really going to take power from us, you're going to have to try to grasp it. And so another system erects. And so as we continue to look at all of these different acts of violence, as we continue to see people become more unhinged to really let you know who they are, just believe them and act accordingly. And for me, that would also ensure that people who are actually talking about not participating in the midterms or the upcoming elections that we have, if you don't think it's going to get worse, give me your cell phone, give me all sense of security, and give me your house keys. And we'll talk about it in another 60 days or a couple of years.
Teach.
The thing that for me that jumps out here, Reese, that I really need people to understand, and the reason I wrote the book because I wanted to connect the dots. When you take these Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, then you take the attacks on the 1619 Project, then you see the attacks on African studies, Afro-American studies, then when you see the attacks on critical race theory, then you see the attacks on diversity, equity, inclusion, the attacks on multiculturalism. Now how the right attaches woke or wokeism to everything. They can't even define what the hell woke is. But again, what they want to do is they want to characterize anything non-white as a threat to America. There was a poll that was done. It shows that a significant number of white Americans, Republicans, believe that discrimination against whites is equal or greater than that of African Americans. And that literally, and I saw this. With Obama wasn't even in the White House 30 days. I said to John Avlon, we are living in the beginning of white minority resistance. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying that because I don't think, Reese, our politicians, I don't think a lot of African Americans are fully understanding what the hell I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. I don't think people really are comprehending how dangerous this is. Right now, You have the Supreme Court that has decided to take a case out of North Carolina, where Republicans are asserting that the state legislatures can overrule the will of the people and they don't have to follow any voting laws whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And you got this guy, Leo Terry, who led the Federalist Society, and this billionaire has given him $1.6 billion to spend any way he wants to.
Yep.
And they have filed an amicus brief with the Supreme Court endorsing these ideas. This thing is so dangerous that a group representing 50 of the nation's state Supreme Court chief justices issued their own warning to the Supreme Court not to rule in its favor. So what these white nationalists are trying to do, and I need everybody who's watching, who's listening, to understand the depths of this. What they want to do is they want to freeze in place any gains, strip away, take away, because they see what the numbers look like. And let me say this to my white Latino friends. You're not white. And so we got to talk to white Latinos who are operating with a white mindset and saying, well, I'm going to choose with the white folks versus Latino folks, and understand they ain't riding with you either. Mm-hmm. This is a threat to our children's children. And so when I listen to all these yahoos, these black folks who are following some of these old ignorant people out here, I ain't voting for this, I ain't voting for that. Trust me, Donald Trump told you after 16, he told you thank you for not voting.
Mm-hmm.
Because what they want to put in power, they are going to do.
Yeah.
And if we don't participate, we just making their job easier. And folk then gonna realize, oh hell, what did I do? Right. And now it's too late.
Right. I mean, this might be the last election where across the country, we have national citizenship, where we have state citizenship even. I mean, if you look at the state of women now, there's no national citizenship for women in this country because depending on where you live, you have a different set of rights. So that's the end of American citizenship for women. In Texas, you cannot get an abortion for any reason except for saving the life of a mother. But you have people like Doug Mastriano in Pennsylvania who want to eliminate even an exception for the life of a mother. Same with Herschel Walker in Georgia. Same with Marco Rubio in Florida. So they're not done yet. They're playing for keeps, and they are tackling every single issue. They're tackling defunding public education. They're tackling stripping you of your health care. They're tackling women's reproductive rights, which is birth control is next. They're tackling the citizenship of the LGBTQ community. But a part of that is also tackling consensual sex between adults who are not who are having sex without the purpose of reproduction. Like, I don't think that people really understand how insidious what they're trying to do is, but it starts with our own citizenship. It starts with gerrymandering us out of being able to influence our elections, which they've done in Texas, which they've done in Florida and other places. That's what the North Carolina, and then the next part is getting these election deniers who will set aside the results of the elections. That's what they're trying to do in Pennsylvania. That's what they're doing with these Secretary of State races. There is every part that they're trying to do, but what Republicans are smart at is they throw out this really incendiary, really inflammatory stuff. So we're talking about woke, and they're talking about banning trans athletes like anybody gives a damn about a 15-year-old trans kid playing volleyball or swimming. And they throw out all of these things when if you look at the record, that's where the real danger is. I mean, obviously their rhetoric is dangerous, but when they want to deny your existence and your humanity in this country and they want to overrule that, that is a big fucking deal. And I want people to quit sleeping on what's happening. Because this is it. This is really it. And the polls might be looking a little better, for Democrats, but this ain't over until people vote. And then if you don't vote now, then if you have a Republican governor in Pennsylvania, if you have a Republican governor that wins in Michigan, if you have a Republican governor that wins in Wisconsin, it don't goddamn matter what we vote for in 2024 because they can overturn the Electoral College votes, even if Biden, Harris, or whoever runs for the Democrats wins by millions more votes like Hillary Clinton did in 2016. So this is it, people, and I know y'all tired of hearing that, but that's the reality of it. And if you don't believe me, you can pick up my book, okay? Because I'm talking about it in both of my books, about what these people are planning to do with their power should they get it.
And I'm telling you, Greg, that there are people, I deal with these people every single day, and they come with the usual BS. Oh, man, you sell out for the Democrats. You a Democratic shield. You own the plantation. Folk, I'm trying to tell you, Mitch McConnell knows very well who the Oath Keepers vote for.
Absolutely.
Marco Rubio, he knows who the Proud Boys vote for.
Absolutely.
I'm telling you right now, Ron Johnson, he knows who the white nationalists vote for.
Absolutely.
They know that is their base. The Confederate flag waving folk. It's only one party today that defends Confederate monuments. It's the Republican Party. It's only one party that has actually made voter suppression a part of its plank. Let's just be straight up honest. And their whole deal, look, and I warn these folks this. Now, I remember when I did a panel at the CBC, and hell, that may have been 8 years ago. Hell, it could have been 10 years ago. And they were talking about, and Cheryl Eiffel was on it, Kristen Clark was on it. Actually, I think he's now in the cabinet, the Biden cabinet. He was Secretary of State of California. And they kept talking about black and brown. I said about voter suppression. I said, y'all. I said, y'all better stop overlooking white folks. They have moved a voting location off the campus of Texas A&M. Y'all, Texas A&M, my alma mater, is conservative as hell. But why are they moving it? Because they don't want them white kids voting. They see what's happening. So people need to understand this thing is so deep, and they are literally meeting, planning. They are funding this thing. The reason these white conservatives hate George Soros, because he got they type of money. That's why they brand any progressive DA a George Soros DA. So they ain't never had a problem with Sheldon Adelson before he died, giving billions of dollars to the Republican Party. But oh, you're a George Soros DA. Well, I dare say wear it with pride. What these people want to unleash on this country, Greg, and put it in historical terms, because I love these people who keep saying we ain't never seen this before. Anybody, if y'all see anybody say, slap the shit out of them. Because if anybody says we've never seen this before, that's proving me somebody who ain't never, ever read history. This is nothing different than the period after Reconstruction, after the Great Compromise of 1877, after they crushed that movement in North Carolina between the broke white folks and the freed slaves. That's what this all is. This is history repeating itself because they are afraid of what happens when we truly get freedom.
Absolutely, Ron. And that applies to anyone who is looking for freedom. Again, and for folks who might think, oh, this is your shields for the Democratic Party, listen very carefully. In fact, if you're not already subscribed to the Black Star Network, please do that. And tell other people. Everybody here probably already is. So you need to tell 10, 20, 1,000 other people to subscribe, because this is the only place you will hear things that might be mentioned other places or even discussed other places, discussed in this way. And trust me, this is the only conversation that matters, because to evoke Elijah Muhammad, and Paul's here to note the passing on the 27th of August of Abel Muhammad, who was the chief spokesperson for Minister Louis Farrakhan, friend of mine, very important sister, lawyer out of Columbus, Ohio, by the way, who made transition. And I think about the Nation of Islam when they said that when this country falls apart, it's going to be the shock of the hour. The shock of the hour, they call it in the Nation of Islam. So all the other places having these conversations, when it falls apart, they're going to be shocked. No one will be shocked in the Black Star Network because we've been trying to tell y'all. And Reese, I appreciate you framing this in the way that you did as it relates to, the rule of law. See, what's really on trial in this process is the rule of law. It isn't a matter of whether we will survive, but it's a matter of who will survive in America, to quote Gil Scott-Heron. So, Roland, when you say that the Democrats are not for maintaining the statues, well, I wonder because you see many of the statues in the South, as you know, are on private property. When I watched you interview the great Fred Gray last month, in the conversation you all were having, he talked about with great pride that they're going to get one of those Confederate monuments down there in Montgomery, and that the Fred Gray Road and Rosa Parks Road, Martin Luther King now abut that public land. They can do that. But here's the problem. Many of those Confederate monuments are on private property. And the problem we have with the Democratic Party is they draw the line because they think that there's a rule of law in this country at the First Amendment. So they say, well, we can't do anything about those on private property because they have the First Amendment right. Well, sir, you've mistaken the concept of rule of law for white nationalism. They're hiding behind the First Amendment. The same thing with gerrymandering, as you just raised. Again, you're not going to see this anywhere else. This Rachel Maddow, Joy Reid, I'll just start naming the names. It really doesn't matter. You're not going to hear this conversation, even though they know full well. Now, Ellie Mastal may slip in there and say a few of these things. Then they kiki and keep going because they think they live in a country and they don't. The point is this. When you start talking about gerrymandering, the Supreme Court has ruled that there's a difference between justiciability, meaning the ability to bring a case in court, have standing, and have a constitutional issue at stake, between political gerrymandering and racial gerrymandering. Those who say, I don't agree with these white nationalists in Wisconsin who have so gerrymandered the Wisconsin legislature and voting for it that you can have a majority in the state vote for one party and the other party still have a majority, they will say, but I respect the courts because, this is not a justiciable issue. Once you say I respect the courts, you have tested the rule of law, because here's what is at stake. When the white nationalists are in power, as you have said, Roland, as you have written, they don't have a rule of law. Their rule is rule or ruin. So Judge Eileen Cannon, that fool down there, 41 years old, that Trump put on the bench in the Southern District of Florida, she has issued a ruling saying that I don't care about no Department of Justice. I don't care about no Federal Bureau of Investigation. All I know is I'm going to stand between the rule of law and my master who appointed me on the recommendation of Marco Rubio, Donald Trump. And I'm going to say there should be a special master appointed to do something that is unprecedented in the history of federal investigations of criminals like Donald Trump, to go back through the documents and figure out how I can save my master. Now, all of the lawyers, including that criminal Bill Barr, who was the attorney general carrying out this foolishness when he was in power, have come out screaming bloody murder about Judge Cannon's rule. But she's a 41-year-old, as you mentioned, appointed on the bench, came through the Federal Society in 2004 when she was at Duke University Law School, and is now on the bench making up the law. There is no rule of law, finally. On this Black Star Network, we interviewed a guy, Richard Kreitner, who writes for The Nation magazine, wrote a book a couple of years ago called Break It Up. He says the central theme in American history is not union, but disillusion. And then year by year, as you say, highlighting Reconstruction, but going back to the beginning when the 13 colonies broke with George III, who came to the throne after Elizabeth I. By the way, the one that just died was Elizabeth II, just to tie together these white nationalists. And then the guy who's on the throne now, Charles III, his predecessor, Charles II, was the one that signed all the warrants that brought us ass over here to speak English. But at any rate, those 13 colonies broke with Great Britain, and that was the only thing they agreed on. When the minute they started the United States, the New Englanders wanted to get away. The South wanted to get away. And then he follows it through the history of the United States. George Washington, when he left office, he was terrified. He said, because once we push west of the Alleghenies, all those places are going to create their own country. You get to the Civil War, South Carolina left because they had been trying to leave since the beginning. And the only thing kept this thing stitched together are people who look like you and me, because we were in enslavement. And the minute we saw a crack and a chance to advance our interests and got a few guns, we ended the damn Civil War because the South was looking on the verge of winning. Remember, they didn't have to conquer New York. They just had to keep the North out of the South. And Gettysburg is in Pennsylvania. It is not in Georgia. The point is the South was on the verge of winning the war. And winning for them looked like secession. And then they were going to link to Mexico, link to Latin America, and create a whole new confederacy. My point is this. From that moment, Reconstruction, to where we are right now, it has been non-white people, chiefly black people. And by the way, white people do include, as you say, Roland, Spanish, because Eileen Cannon came from Colombia. She was born in Colombia. Her mother is one of them Cubans that left Castro's Cuba in 1959. So she's white too, and she just happens to speak Spanish. But the only thing that's kept this together is people saying, we don't give a damn about y'all. But if you believe in your own rule of law, we can force you to stitch this thing together long enough for this to get some room to operate. But when this thing collapses, it doesn't mean that we're going to die. Don't be scared, as you say, Roland. People say, y'all shield for Democratic Party, Republican Party. Shh. People don't like me. You know, some of my friends who are on the radical left say I told them to shut up, and they mad about that still to this day. So I'm not going to say shut up.
I will. Shut up.
Well, no, I'll just say, as John Henry Clark said, be smart. Don't get mad, get smart. Understand that if you don't go out there and vote, you're not propping up a system. You're trying to work in your own interest, because if you don't and they do get in charge, again, they've already lined up the agenda. You see these white nationalists saying, when we take the House, we're going to investigate Biden. We're going to investigate the Attorney General.
Fauci, everybody.
Fauci, all of them, right? So when they do that, here is the danger. Here's the danger. All my friends that say, well, they're all the same. No problem. See, philosophically, I agree with you enough, but here's why I know we disagree. I know y'all ain't got the heart to kick in the door waving the 4-4. But I tell you who does have the heart to kick in the door waving the 4-4. All them people who may not have voted, but when they realize that there is no rule of law to protect them, and the only thing gonna stand between them and the grave is a strap, this thing is going to fall completely apart. Because if you don't try to fix it through the political process, the only other alternative is revolution. And most people are not revolutionaries, but if you kick in the door on their mama, then you ain't got enough police. And I don't want to see that happen. I'm not cheering for that. I'm not expecting that. I'm saying voting is one way to perhaps forestall that moment. But what is inevitable is there's going to be, in the words of Lerone Bennett Jr., confrontation in black and white. The only question is, do we want to shape the terms now, or do we want to shape the terms later?
Folks, going to a break. When we come back, we will do our Black and Missing. Also, Queen Elizabeth died today, 96 years old. It has stirred a lot of emotions. The British are mourning her death. The Irish are cheering her death. There are people who are angry with black subjects, saying, how dare you be upset? But did they tell the Cubans that when Castro died? We're going to unpack this, folks, and walk you through this, because we need to help folk understand colonialism and its impact on the legacy of Queen Elizabeth. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Folks, if you're on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and Twitch, y'all hit the like button. Stop riding for free. We should easily be at more than 1,000 likes right now. Hit that button. And of course, download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. And of course, if you want to support us, join our Bring the Funk fan club. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing on average $50 each for the year. Y'all get this show, all this. Y'all ain't getting this on no other platform. Let me go ahead and really break this thing down. Check your cable bill. You literally, what did I just tell y'all? $50 a month, $50 a year, $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. You literally right now are paying more for Fox News, CNN, Fox Business, every month on your cable bill. Oh yeah, that money's going to them. We are providing this show, Farage's Daily Show, weekly shows from Greg, Jackie Hood Martin, Stephanie Humphrey, weekly shows from Deborah Owens. We literally are working on 3 or 4 other weekly shows right now. Y'all, by mid-October, we plan on launching our 24-hour fast channel. There's no other black-owned media company in America as providing this level of news and analysis. Not Byron Allen, not Essence, not Ebony, not Blavity, not any of them. No black-owned platform is doing what we do on a daily basis. period. So your support matters. This is no different than taking a subscription out to a newspaper. It's the same thing, and it's a hell of a lot cheaper, and you're getting a hell of a lot more. Send your check and money orders to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. We'll be right back.
When we invest in ourselves, we're investing in what's next for all of us. Growing, creating, making moves that move us all forward. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Can you believe the nerve of these Republicans? They only want to block progress for our community. They talk about cutting Medicare and Social Security. They played politics with veterans' health care. They voted against the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act and funding for our HBCUs, and against lowering prescription drug costs for our seniors. These Republicans keep trying hard to stand in the way, but President Biden, Vice President Harris, and Democrats won't let them. They are delivering for us. The Democratic National Committee is responsible for the content of this advertising.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Hi, I'm Vivian Green.
Hi, I'm Wendell Pierce, actor and author of The Wind in the Reeds.
Hey, yo, Peace World, what's going on? It's the Love King of R&B, Raheem Devon, and you're watching Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
Jamari Robertson is missing from Austin, Texas. The 15-year-old was last seen on August 30th. He's 5 feet 7 inches tall, weighs 140 pounds, with brown hair and brown eyes. Any more information about Jamari Robertson should call the Austin Police Department, 512-974-2000, 512-974-2000. Folks, this afternoon, news came out of the UK that Queen Elizabeth, who has reigned as the head of the monarch for the last 70 years, has died at the age of 96. This morning, British doctors said they were concerned about her health. Her family rushed to her side. She passed away at her summer home there in Scotland. It has unleashed a wave of mourning there in Britain for the head of the monarch. You've had sporting events that have been canceled as a result of her death. The NFL has announced there's going to be a moment of silence before their games kick off this Sunday as well. And you have had a lot of people talking about her impact, leading the Commonwealth, leading this massive colonialism for 70 years. But there's been another conversation going on that's been taking place around the world, and that is, how do you then assess her legacy? Do we only focus on what some consider to be the good, as opposed to looking at it in its totality? If you look at something that's called #Irish Twitter, you will see how they are reacting. In fact, there was this video here that was dropped. Someone, when the announcement was made, you should turn the audio up. They were cheering Lizzie's in a box. In fact, other parts of the country, I was there was some video that I pulled up. This was a scene outside of another area there in Ireland. Now, it's interesting when you begin to assess this. I saw this tweet just moments ago from Karen Hunter. Sirius XM radio show host. And she said to folks, she says, FYI, it's spiritually tacky to celebrate the death of anyone. Okay. So, and then she had a second tweet where she said, give me 1 second. She said, that said, Black Twitter, Irish Twitter, and them are going straight to hell. And some of these reactions are mad funny because two things can be true. What we've seen here, I was a little bit earlier, I saw a tweet from Eric Erickson, and he was not happy at all with journalist Wesley Lowery. Allow me to find that. So here was a tweet right here from Jamel Hill that clearly upset Eric. She said, journalists are tasked with putting legacies into full context, so it is entirely appropriate to examine the Queen and her role in the devastating impact of continued colonialism. Well, Eric wasn't happy, so Eric goes, the professional race hustlers who profit off perpetuating racial issues never disappoint in their efforts to weave racial grievance into everything. It really is impressive. Again, that was one reaction. I saw another one where he was, again, upset with something that Wesley Lowery had tweeted. And again, these reactions have been really interesting as you've seen people get mad and upset with these responses. Now, then you have this response here by this sister, Uju Anya. She apparently is a professor somewhere. She just eviscerated the Queen. She said, I heard the chief monarch of a thieving, raping, genocidal empire is finally dying. May her pain be excruciating. She then said, that wretched woman and her bloodthirsty throne have fucked generations of my ancestors on both sides of the family, and she supervised a government that sponsored the genocide my parents and siblings survived. May she die in agony. Wow. Some will call that harsh. But again, I'm going to put this thing in context in a second, because Karen Attia, this was interesting here. This was a statement that came from, let me just do this here. I'm going to pull the actual tweet up, because I thought it was very interesting when I saw this tweet. And I guarantee y'all, you're not going to have this conversation anywhere else but here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. The president of Ghana sent out a tweet. And Karen responded to it. This is what the president of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, tweeted. My thoughts and the thoughts of all Ghanaians at home and abroad are with Queen Elizabeth II, the British monarch and the head of Commonwealth, the organization of which Ghana is a proud member, and her family in these difficult moments. I wish her the best and God's blessings. But this is what Karen tweeted. The UK rejects visa applications from Africa at twice the rate of people from other parts of the world, and is still holding on to cultural items it plundered from Ghana. But sure, let's kiss the ring. Wow. Now, I also saw, I'm gonna find in a second, there was another tweet that Karen sent out that I do think is worthy to discuss, because she made a mention about who were subjects. As a matter of fact, so she, this was one of her tweets. My great-great-grandparents worked in the British colonial administration, as did my grandfather for a while before independence. My father and mother were born in Ghana and Nigeria, respectively, under British rule. So here you have a opinion writer for the Washington Post who's talking about her family. She's talking about what took places. You know, this was, let me find that tweet if I can. Oh, here it is right here, before I go to our panel here. Black and brown people around the world who were subject to horrendous cruelties and economic deprivation under British colonialism are allowed to have feelings about Queen Elizabeth. After all, they were her subjects too. Go to my panel here. It's the reason I think this is important, Karen. I'm sorry, Reese. I'm sitting there reading Karen's tweet. Is because there is this view that when a significant figure passes away, a world leader, that it's supposed to be all positive, no criticism. It's always those things can wait. But I showed the reaction of the Irish. Please tell me what is the difference between how the Irish reacting to the death of Queen Elizabeth is different than how in Little Havana in Miami, they celebrated honking horns, firing guns, having parades when Castro died.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there is no difference, really. And, listen, I'm not the historian here. I believe that's to Dr. Carr and you. But I'm not in the business of policing Black people in particular, their reactions to anything. I think people are completely justified in how they feel. I think if some people want to celebrate, that's on them. I'm not going to, indict them for that either. But the reality is she's had, she was queen for 70 years.
Is it possible to fall in love with your home?
All right.
So she's had 70 years of pomp and circumstance and kissing the ring and everybody bowing before her. And so if people want to have an honest evaluation of her record and what it means beyond these crown jewels that are stolen from Africa or these pageants that they put on, I think that that is perfectly reasonable in this moment.
See, this is an example, Erica, of what I was talking about earlier. People who literally ain't read shit. Because what we do is we go, oh, Queen Elizabeth, oh, she was just, she was this nice figure, this nice woman, grandmotherly, and walked around in big hats and jewels and robes and all that fun stuff. Had some kids and princes and princesses and all that sort of stuff. And people think it's all fairy tale, but the reality is that government ruled a large part of the world, ruled African nations, was a brutal regime. So it shows to me a sheer arrogance, especially of white Americans, who refuse to acknowledge what life was like for folk who were under colonial rule.
Yeah, it's par for the course. They feel like they are in charge of Black people, Black labor, Black thought, Black feelings, but are free to have their own. You're talking about all of those nations that monarch has ruled since 1627, and just thinking about it wasn't that long ago in the 1960s that Barbados was given autonomy, and we know that the complexion of Barbados is reflective of ours. So when we talk about policing, there's definitely over-policing of Black folks, period, in this country and beyond. I think that also goes to emotional reaction, because some of the stuff that I read on Irish Twitter, it was just like, it was cold-blooded. They gave no fucks about what they said with regard to Elizabeth's departure. They didn't care what people felt about it. They were speaking from people who were subject to her rule, and they were very frank and honest about it. So, when we start talking about Black people, the last tweet that you read from Karen, I'd read that earlier myself, and I said, absolutely damn right. I don't know what that experience is. I know what my experience is in this country, but to police and tell Black people how to behave, how to comport oneself, no, not when, this woman has had 70 years of reign. That didn't happen because of what you described in that descriptor when I think about all the childcraft books I had growing up. Honey, that was blood, okay? You don't sit somewhere for 70 years eating bonbons and having fresh truffles delivered because you're sweet. That was blood.
Greg, it is hard for people to do two things at one time. The reality is there are positives and there are negatives. But this notion that somehow we can't even discuss what some consider to be negative. I mean, if we're talking about how do you assess the legacy of Queen Elizabeth, it cannot be from a white Anglo-Saxon European point of view. You have to ask those in India. You have to ask those in multiple African nations. Because brutality existed. Folks died. Folks were killed in order to support the United Kingdom, which she led for 70 years. So to act like that didn't happen, and so how dare these people express their view? Again, I just go back to how folks were cheering the death of Fidel Castro.
The death of Hugo Chavez, the death of Muammar Gaddafi, the death of, and I'm sure there are people bristling now like, wait, are you naming dictators? Well, yeah, I need to turn off Bridgerton and Hamilton and all these silly-minded attempts to beg your master to be human in the world. And think for yourself, as you say, Roland, I have all the space in the world, particularly for the victims of the British, whether they be Ireland, which was Britain's first colony. That goes back to the 11th century. There's a full-bred white nationalist named Mel Gibson who made a whole movie about it between Ireland and Scotland. Braveheart, y'all remember that? You know, maybe y'all heard Nas, Bravehearts. Well, that actually comes from that white-on-white beef that based on England invading. See, when they say the United Kingdom, there's a difference between England and the United Kingdom. Ask them people in Wales, ask them people in Scotland, and ask the Northern Irish how they feel. Well, we don't have to ask them because you just put it up. England is well, I don't know, maybe Spain, because Spain, you know, everybody speaking Spanish got colonized by Spain. So between Spain and England, but certainly I would probably make the case England, because they're a lot more brutal, because unlike Spain, the English culture is threadbare. You don't go to fine English dining, after all, as you chew on your fish and chips. England is arguably the most influential criminal enterprise in world history. Elizabeth II, who ruled for 70 years and 214 days, the longest reign of a queen or monarch in England, king or queen, is probably going to be the last monarch. Charles III, when he dies, whenever that is, if he lives a few more years, will probably be presiding over the complete fracture. And you mentioned Barbados. Shout out to Mia Amor Motley, the Prime Minister of Barbados. They left the Commonwealth before she died. And I understand why President Akufo-Addo said what he said. He's trying to be a diplomat because he wants to do business with the UK, right? He wants to do business with England. But I got all the room in the world for the Nigerians, like Dr. Anya, I have, who is going to be crucified at Carnegie Mellon for this, is already getting crucified for this. I have all the room in the world for Sister Atia, whose parents are Ghanaian and Nigerian, because they understand. You understand that Ghana took her independence in 1957. In 1961 is a famous moment when Elizabeth II, at 35 years old, goes in to dance with Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana. Up until 1960, when Ghana declared itself constitutional republic, she was still, from 57 to 60, you know her official title in Ghana? She was the Queen of Ghana. If you in the Commonwealth, she's still your queen. Her face on your money. They got to change the money now from her face to Charles III's face. Your master's still on your money. Mia Moore Motley said later for that, she made Rihanna a national hero and said, we getting out the Commonwealth. Both of those things. Chef's kiss. The point is that Jamaica coming soon. What you're going to see now is, with this woman gone, they might say, okay, later for that, because Britain still rules over an empire, finally. Her last official act. Her last official act on Tuesday was to swear in this new prime minister, Liz Truss. Why the prime minister of England, who's about to wreak havoc up there, by the way, why is she going out there to this woman's vacation castle, one of many, by the way, the biggest recipient of welfare in the history of humanity, organized humanity is the British royal family. Why is she going out there to get the queen? Because even though it might just look ceremonial, you have to understand the power of culture. When you worship things like this, you are buying into a system that has had its foot on your neck for 500 years. And if you think that the reaction is a little out of hand, as Karen Hunter say, you shouldn't celebrate death. Well, that's the protocol African people have always had. But let me tell you another protocol we have always had. If somebody slap you in your damn face, you need to slap them back. And Elizabeth II, following in the long line of British murderers, been slapping the world in the face for centuries. So go on into the next phase and pray to God that you don't see Gandhi, and Nehru, and Nasser, and pray you don't see Kwame Nkrumah walking around wherever you going, and you better not see nobody from the Caribbean, the Jamaican Blue Mountain Maroons, and oh my God, if you running them niggeros from Barbados, you in real trouble, Elizabeth II. So all we can say is, when we get over there, and I'm going to tell you what's going to happen in 80 or 90 years when baby Archie make it over there, you and him and your husband who call him a monkey, they're going to have another kind of conversation. But I'm going to stop right there.
I just want those who are watching and listening to understand that we can have a well-rounded conversation.
Yes.
And I just simply think, Erica, Reese, and Greg, this is a perfect example of a failure in this country. When there's a mass shooting, there's no time for that. This is a time to only think about, the bodies aren't even cold. Some breaking news, multiple people shot in downtown Uvalde a few moments ago.
What?
A few moments ago, police were responding to multiple people shot in downtown Uvalde, Texas, just 4 months after 19 kids were gunned down in the school, 2 adults. That's the thinking in this country. Oh, no. We shouldn't be discussing those things right now. Don't bring those things up right now. But no, we should. And I think it does a disservice to people today who have no understanding of history, to not look at the entire life, career, and the spectrum of Queen Elizabeth, just like when Ronald Reagan died. Oh, no. Reagan was a great man. So we are to ignore all of this? No. I don't celebrate someone dying. We got the news today. Longtime CNN anchor Bernard Shaw died at the age of 82. Many of us remember him from covering the Iraq War. He passed away. Last night, I got the terrible news that comedian David Arnold, 54 years old, died as well. No one celebrates death. We mourn those who died. People are mourning Bernard Shaw, but guess what? Bernard Shaw gave an interview with NPR where he said he missed a lot of things in his family because of things that he was covering, and he said it wasn't worth it. So think about it. People are honoring the journalism of Bernard Shaw, but Bernard Shaw said himself, of all things that he missed, it wasn't worth it. So I just want people to have...
You knew him. Why did he say that? Why do you think he said that? Ron?
Easy. I think because when you are, look, as you get older, you reflect on what you missed. Birthdays. Your memories. Mike Wallace was fired from CBS. He was fired. He made a comment. He said, F you to the new executive producer. He could do that with the previous EP, his old friend Don. Not the new one. Mike Wallace was fired. All the awards, all the accolades, he was fired. Stuck him in a downstairs office, play out his contract. Mike Wallace died in a nursing home of dementia. They put his awards on the walls, hoping he would remember. None of that. I think Bernard Shaw made that comment because he gave up a lot to go cover these things worldwide. And when you get to the end of your life, you actually wish you had more time with your family. Ed Gordon posted this about, and it's very interesting because David Arnold really was like bothered that he did not blow up. He did not experience the highs of the business until literally the last year. And he had been wanting it for a very long time. Here was a conversation that he had on the podcast with Ed Gordon that I think is important, which I think also speaks to what Bernard Shaw had to say. So listen to this.
What's the end of the road? And by that, I know people don't like to think about, particularly when you love what you do, the end, but there is, the end of your driveway, you make it home, you're satisfied. What is that for you?
This is what I will say. Lately, in the last couple of years, with the success that I've had and just what I've had now, I'm learning to stop and start enjoying the things around me that I do have. My daughters are 15 and 17. I try to spend more time with them and really lock in with them because they're, a few years out from going out and to do their own thing. Spend more time in lock in with my wife, trying to do things that I enjoy, right? Because I'm still going to do a sitcom. I'm going to do that. I know that's going to come my way. I don't know how long I'm going to do it, but I know I'm going to do it. And then I will get a chance to tour. If I can just tour and people come to see me every time my name goes up on a marquee, that would be cool. But the end for me is being in a place where I'm okay. I've made an incredible living doing what I love to do, which is a blessing because most people do not get a chance to do that. Mm-hmm. And I think the end for me is just being comfortable with the things that I have done and being happy with the fact that I've made a great living and taking care of the people around me. You know what I mean? Doing what I love to do in a way that was even better than I was, raised in some areas.
Well, look, man, I told you when we first talked, I'm a big fan. I appreciate all
I
that
was
you
so
do.
shocked. I was like, this ain't.
You can see more of that on Ed Gordon's page. David Arnold, folks, comedian, dead at the age of 54 years old. I mentioned Bernard Shaw, longtime anchor of CNN. Our paths did not cross. We were there at CNN together. I got there in 2007, left in 2013. But I did have an opportunity to meet Bernard Shaw on many occasions. In the last 3 years, he and I talked several times. We tried to connect to play golf. Bernie had knee surgery, then he had a serious back issue. We would talk occasionally. He actually crossed my mind 3 weeks ago, and I should have called. Literally just popped into my spirit, and I didn't do so. And like I said, we would talk, and he would man, want to play golf, but he kept having these injuries. He died at the age of 82 of pneumonia, non-COVID. A few years ago, at the National Association of Black Journalists Convention, he spoke. And I was sitting in the room when he made this speech. Let me know if y'all have the video. And some may ask, Roland, why did I rip CNN when I did? Because part of my deal is, I said, I don't want to wait until I'm 70 years old to speak truth about what happened. When Carol Simpson wrote her book and talked about the racism and the sexism she had to go through, when Bernard Shaw talked about the things that he went through, they were not in real time. So for me, when you talk about those things when you're 70 or 75 years old, they can't be fixed. They can't be fixed. And so I sat in that room and I listened to Bernard Shaw give these words, and I said, you know what, leave it right there, we're gonna pick it up right there. Part of my whole deal is, no, somebody has to speak truth while it's actually happening. And he said something to white men in that room in 2007 that actually applies today. He was presented his Lifetime Achievement Award by Gwen Ifill. She's no longer with us either. Here's Bernard Shaw speaking to NABJ 15 years ago when he got the Lifetime Achievement Award at our national convention in Las Vegas.
Thank you. Gwen, where are you? Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Tonight you welcome me down your corridor of honor, and I am walking in shoes of humility because before me you have celebrated the finest of the best. Among them, on my mind, my friend, Ed Bradley. Confession. I feel uneasy. And I feel uneasy because praise makes me itch. I want it, I like it, but I can't spoon with it, you know? I refuse to. It's my way of keeping myself honest and remembering my mother's words. You can always be taken down a buttonhole lower. My wifely friend of 33 years, Linda, has lovingly done that from time to time. As mother protector, heart, soul, and conscience of our family. Without them, there would be no me. In all the seriousness of my journalistic life, there's been an impish little boy, hidden away but reappearing at signal moments to remind me of life's wonderments, people's goodness, and tomorrow's possibilities. So many times that little boy saved me from becoming embalmed with cynicism and stereotypical thinking and viewing others through and with negative prisms and mirrors. But then and now, there is code red reality. Journalists, hear me tonight. There are some owners in our business, some bosses, parent companies, whose profit fixation and staffing directives and decisions sabotage the public good they profess to serve. They are turning the people's right to know into the people's fight to know. Beyond this ballroom tonight, white males, wake up. wake up. Globally, you are an island speck in an ocean of color. The reins of power will weaken, and so will your grip, if you do not faithfully and fulsomely support our nation's greatest strength, diversity. If you do not share, you will lose. Diversity. Diversity is not racial, ethnic, or gender encroachment. Diversity is our national survival. To you caught in the middle, stay vigilant. You must stay strong. You must carry on. If not you, who? To you, starting careers, embrace risk. Mold change, making it work for you. Better to walk the plank of change than regret steps not taken. Work hard at working hard. And finally, to you, I say this. Never fear truth, but be afraid of missing it. Your goals, your talent, your ethics have lifelong value and are superior to an Emmy, a Peabody, or a Pulitzer won along the way. For this grand moment in life tonight, I thank you. Thank you.
Bernard Shaw dead at the age of 82. Greg, I saw you responding to that. Again, to me, those are the words that need to be spoken on CNN, on the air, not just to media executives, but to all these white men in power in this country.
Well, Roland, that's one of the reasons, thank God, you're not at CNN and you're here in a place that you built. Imagine how Bernard Shaw would have sounded if he could have said that every day on the Black Star Network, or Charmaine Hunter-Galt, or Gwen Ifill, or, as he mentioned, Ed Bradley, graduate of Cheyney State University, or Max Robinson, for that matter, at that same ABC that Bernie Shaw started at as a young reporter in the 60s after having come out of the Marines, of course, the great Chicagoan Bernard Shaw, who interviewed Martin Luther King, who covered Watergate, who, as you say, become the first chief anchor at CNN, but then did it in a way, and as he's talked about in interview after interview, did it in a way that radiated coolness. And of course, on CNN, they're going to have him talking about Baghdad. Of course, they're going to talk about the Iraq War and how he was cool there. But that's who.
Yeah, they ain't going to play that speech.
Oh, no, hell no. Of course not. Again, this is the only place. And I guess what I'm saying is I'm sitting there listening, brother, and thinking about that elder and his dignity. And we think about so many of our elders, women and men, and their dignity, giving these pronouncements, these kind of valedictories, these kind of passing it on. We realize when people say, and they'll say it, of course, all the black folk, all the black talking heads in these places will say, we stand on their shoulders. But do you? See, when we look at you, brother, we see someone who truly stands on the shoulder because, as he said, you know, my dream wasn't to be the black at CNN who had to stay cool the whole time, which means at some point early in the 2000s, he retires and said, I'm going to spend this time with my family. It means not having to make that choice because you control the platform. There will never be We've passed the peak of network news, as you remind us all the time, cable-based news, as you remind us all the time. It is now the streaming universe, and you saw ahead, which means finally that to stand on the shoulders of a Bernard Shaw, to stand on the shoulders of an Ed Bradley or Gwen Ifill or Max Robinson or Charmaine Hunter-Galt and so many others, to stand on their shoulders means literally to say, we are going to build, because of their sacrifice and enabled by their sacrifice, we're going to build the platform they would have loved to have worked at the whole time. And ironically, that platform looks a whole lot more than the platform of the shoulders on which they stood, the Mal Goods and the Robert Abbotts, as you remind us, and all of the folks from the Defender and all the folks from the Courier. It looks a lot more like that independent black media that preceded them than it does being their followers in these white spaces who have to sit there and bite their lips until they can't stand it no more. And like Don Lemon turning from a courtier to power to the #1 critic because you just can't take it no more. Well, Don, you could always come to the Black Star Network, brother. But, you know, Bernie Shaw's dream wasn't for you to follow him at CNN. Bernie Shaw's dream looks a whole lot more like Roland Martin than it does Don Lemon.
The lesson learned, Queen Elizabeth 96, Bernard Shaw 82, David Arnold 54. The reality, and real quick, Reese and Erica, before I go to my next guest out of South Carolina, no one knows the day, the hour, the minute, the second. So you've got to live every single moment to the fullest. As Ambassador Andrew Young always says, when he wakes up, he says, guess God ain't done with me yet.
Yeah, and I mean, I used to see David Arnold all the time at the Laugh Factory at Chocolate Sundays. I saw him out with his family once at lunch, and he was just such a great spirit. He wasn't one of those comedians that every other word was bitch this, motherfucker this, you know, that. Not that I have a problem with that, but he was just a really good stand-up guy who was really, really funny. So I just want to, you know, speak on him for a second because I've seen him so much over the years, and this is really a true tragic loss.
Erica.
Well, just I would encourage everyone to listen to that NPR interview. It's 11 minutes if you listen, or if you want to read at your leisure. But something that Mr. Shaw said throughout, and an abundance of condolences to the Arnold family and to the Shaw family, and to those people who were, you broke the news about what happened in Uvalde. What Mr. Shaw said in that NPR interview, and he kept saying, you know, and talking about success, and he said that it will cost you. It will cost you physically, it will cost you mentally, and I hope and pray that folks survive. So I think that hearing those words from somebody who was so able to reflect in such a meaningful way about what it means to trade in family for success, or to really try to balance that it definitely will cost you. So again, condolences to some wonderful people that we've lost here recently.
Indeed. Got to go to a break, folks. When we come back, we will talk with a South Carolina state legislature who let her colleagues know, y'all keep acting a fool. Keep acting a fool. You gonna deal with this. Wait till we show you what she had to say and talk to her. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network.
When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.
I remember being with The View when they said, we want to extend your contract. And I knew God said, it's time to move. It's time to go. And everybody was saying, Sherry, you got a great job. You're making all of this money. And I said, no, it's time. And they said, you ain't gonna be able to, you've been away from Hollywood. And I said, it's time to go. And when I didn't, that's when I realized I was about to go through this divorce, and it was gonna be expensive, it was gonna be a lot. And I said, I'm gonna stay. I said, I'm gonna stay for a couple of years.
So you
make this money.
See, go ahead.
I'm gonna make this money, and then I'll get out, Lord. So I'm gonna do a compromise. I'm gonna do what you say, but I'm gonna do it on my thing.
And he went, really?
He went really. And you know when he went really? They said that we were heavy in contract negotiations. And they came, my manager called, she said, they're not gonna renew your contract. And I went, hey, so wait, what? So, what? Just yesterday, they was offering me more money. She said, they just decided not to renew your contract. And I remember sitting in front of the mirror at The View, and I went, what happened? And it was very clear. God said, I told you it was time to go.
When we invest in ourselves, we're investing in what's next for all of us. Growing, creating, making moves that move us all forward. Together, we are Black beyond measure.
Peace and love, everybody. I'm Purple Wonder Love.
Hey, I'm Donnie Simpson.
What's up? I'm Lance Gross, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Montgomery County, Maryland parent agrees to a $275,000 settlement with the county over her young child's detainment by police after he walked away from school 2 years ago. Shanta Grant's child left East Silver Spring Elementary School on January 14, 2020. Police officers Dion Holliday and Kevin Grisman found the boy, who was 5 at the time, about 2/10 of a mile away from the school. Grant's lawsuit accused police of being verbally abusive and threatening toward the child. The officers put handcuffs on the boy, trying to scare him straight once he was taken back to school. Montgomery County's Self-Insurance Fund and the Board of Education paid out the settlement. The Brooklyn District Attorney is asking a judge to throw out 378 criminal convictions directly based on the work of 13 former NYPD officers who are now convicts themselves. DA Eric Gonzalez said he's requesting the dismissal of the mostly misdemeanor cases because new evidence suggests the police officers were unreliable witnesses. These former police officers were found to have committed serious misconduct that directly reflects to their official job duties, calling into question the integrity of every arrest they have made. A thorough review by my conviction review unit identified those cases in which their testimony was essential to providing guilt, and I will now move to dismiss those convictions as I no longer have confidence in the integrity of the evidence that underpinned them. The 13 officers related to the case were convicted of murder, of planning drugs, taking sex bribes, lying under oath. According to data collected by the National Registry of Exonerations, this is the 6th mass dismissal of convictions in U.S. history. Steve Bannon walked the perp walk today. Yep, he got arrested in New York for that racist wall they were building, stealing from all those folks. Yeah, slapped them cuffs on that punk ass. He talked a whole bunch of trash, and now he's facing anywhere to 5 to 15 years in prison. Remember, he got pardoned for this by Donald Trump. That was federal. You can't get another pardon because now the state's after your punk ass, Steve Bannon. What a sight to see. All right, folks, let's talk about South Carolina, where a black lawmaker gave a speech on the floor where she laid it out to her colleagues. They've done some crazy stuff in South Carolina. All these white men sitting there passing their abortion bills. One of the Republicans then crying about how the impact, hell, he hadn't even read the damn thing. Well, State Representative Gilda Cobb-Hunter stood before her colleagues earlier this month, telling voters to take their personal feelings out of the ballots. Watch this.
Voters out there, I like all of these people in here, don't have a thing against them. Listen, this is not personal. This is business. And too many of you have made your choice at the polls personal. You have voted for people because you go to church with them, you like them and they're nice people, you golf with them, you play bridge, you do all of those kinds of social interactions. What I want you to start asking voters is the question that was asked by one who probably would be considered a rhino now with this current crowd, and that's the former President Ronald Reagan. The question that he asked, are you better off now than you were before? And so I say to the women in this state especially, and to the men who support women having the intelligence to make responsible choices about what they do with their body, I say to them, the question you need to start asking your church members who are in here, your friends who are in here, is how they have voted, and if they're running, how they will vote on issues that affect your well-being. And at some point in this country, when we have voters who stop falling for the red meat that is way before them, the distractions that keep you off of what is really going on, then you will make better choices at the polling booth. And for those of you who are harboring what you're going to do to me in the event that I do get elected and come back, bring your A game. Because guess what? There have been many who have come before you and have sat right in some of these same seats, right, Mr. Valentine? And had all kinds of plans about what they were going to do to Cobb Hunter. I won't tell you where some of those people are now, but it don't matter to me. Like I said, this is not my life. I had a life before I came here. I'm going to have one when I leave.
Bring your A game. Representative Gilda Cobb Hunter joins us right now on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Lord, you done let them folk know. Don't play with me.
Hey, Roland, how are you?
I'm doing great. What precipitated that floor speech?
Well, we were talking about abortion again for the long, and I was just at a point where I'd had enough of hearing. It was just at a point where enough already. Let's just get it on. You know what you're going to do, and it was something that I felt compelled to say. I sat here and watched that, listened to it really for the first time. But it was just a matter of saying, look, I am not one of these Democrats who believe in turning the other cheek. I am not passive. I have absolutely no problem with standing my ground, to borrow a bad pun. But I just think Democrats need to understand that politics is a contact sport, and we don't need to be worried. Well, I'll just stop at that. I was just letting them know, hey, come, you can come, but don't think I'm just going to stand and not try to respond in a way that I think is appropriate.
And I think what people want fighters. And even if the numbers are stacked against you, folks want to know that there are going to be men and women, brothers and sisters who are not going to lie down and just take any crap from these folks.
Yeah, I would agree with that. A lot of people have said to me over the years that I've had the pleasure of serving in the South Carolina House, is that they don't always agree with me and my positions, but one thing they always appreciate is that I will stand, even if I'm standing alone. That's something that I was taught, and it's something that has always it has always worked for me. I just believe in being direct, tell you what it is, and you have an opportunity to agree or disagree. We aren't going to fall out about it. We'll agree to disagree agreeably. But I don't think Democrats fully appreciate how much people in this country appreciate elected officials who will stand for what they believe is the right thing.
And y'all have had to deal with some straight craziness in the South Carolina legislature.
Yeah, I would say that's a nice way to put it, Roland.
Well, it was interesting. I was at this event, and Nikki Haley was, talking about the work that she did bringing that Confederate flag down. I'm sitting in the room, I'm mad as hell, pissed off. And I had someone black say, well, no, we got to give her credit. I said, no. I said, it took 9 black folk being gunned down for that to happen. And I said, yep. I don't care how even after that it was still difficult. She talked about how it was still hard and how we came together. No, I ain't handing out free credit cards to folk. It took 9 black people, including a member of that body, being gunned down for that flag to come down. Ain't nobody getting credit.
You're absolutely right, Roland. And those 9, the whole bit about it is even with 9 murders, there still was much work to do to get the flag off of that dome. The real story of the Confederate flag and how it came down has really not been told. There are a lot of people who have claimed credit for bringing it down. There are a lot of people who've gotten contracts and become big names and all of that kind of thing based on those 9 people being murdered in Charleston. But the reality is that even with that, It took a lot of work. And I don't know if you or some of your audience may recall and may have been focused on the debate that lasted into the wee hours of the morning when we decided to take that flag down. It was a struggle. For those people who know former Governor Haley, they know that she has absolutely no trouble claiming credit for things.
Absolutely no doubt. Questions for my panel. I will start with someone who, from a state closest to you, that's Georgia. Erica, go right ahead.
Representative, it's so good to be on with you today. Thank you for all the tireless work that you've done in the state of South Carolina. And so my question for you is specifically, what are you hearing from your constituents in terms of your leadership, what they expect from you, and what they see coming down the pipeline as we enter into midterms, into a general election, especially with the fire and boldness that you present?
Well, my constituents, thank you, and it's great being with you as well. What my constituents are expecting is that I will continue to fight for them, to stand for what's right, to be a voice of reason, and to be a voice that is not afraid. Coming down the pike, there is much work to do in this state as across the country, and getting people to understand what is at stake in November. Quite frankly, that bought and sold Supreme Court did all of us a favor, I believe, when they overturned Roe v. Wade. And by the way, I think it speaks volumes that you've got men and women sitting on the highest court in the land who actually lied to get their seat. And so what I have spent all my time trying to do and will continue to do is engage people in the importance of getting registered and getting out. You know, we talk a lot about voter registration. We don't talk enough about voter education. And voter education includes registration, but you can't just register people and then expect that they will go out and vote. We've got to tell and talk to our communities about why it's important that they go out and vote. And so many times we as elected officials don't do that. We come around 6 weeks if we're lucky. In a lot of places, it's 2 weeks. We come around and to be, you know, this stuff, and I don't mean to be whatever, choose your word, but this business that we used to engage in by saying to people, oh, you know, people died trying to giving you the right to vote and all of that, that does not work anymore in a lot of communities like it used to. And those of us who are blessed and highly favored enough to be elected officials, we've got to start doing a better job communicating and showing people why they put us in these positions. And quite frankly, I'm sorry, with all due respect to everybody out there who serves, who looks like me, if you ain't doing nothing, you need to move on out of the way. We got too many people in positions of power who are just glad for the title and the tags. They're just glad to be there. And a lot of the problems in our communities is because I believe we've got elected officials who are more concerned with that title and that tag and maintaining that as opposed to changing things in their communities.
Reese.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative, for your leadership. I'm curious, do you see the needle moving at all with the attempt at a total abortion ban in your state? I know you talked about the need to reach out to voters and move beyond just the rhetoric around the importance of voting. But in this moment, are you seeing that people are just more motivated to kind of fight against what they're seeing in the state? Or do you think it still hasn't really clicked with people yet what's really at stake?
I think the answer is both of those. Yes, there are some people who are motivated and are out here working, but on the other hand, there are some who are not. What I can't afford to do is to just give up and say, oh, well, why bother? Nothing is going to change. I feel compelled, as long as I have a voice, to talk to people about why they need to get engaged and get involved. We have made it clear clear here in South Carolina. And I tell you, I've been in the legislature for a minute now, like 31 years. And I thought everything that could be done on the subject of abortion had been done. Needless to say, I keep getting surprised every session by my colleagues. And that was a part of the point I was making in that speech last week. Bottom line is, there will always be somebody in those chambers who want to restrict a woman's right to choose. We sent a bill over last week from the House to the Senate that had a couple of exceptions. They weren't very great. Even though one was rape, you had to report it to the police and call the sheriff and all that crap before the exception was there. What they've done in the Senate with that House bill, as I understand, is make it even worse. So the point I want people to understand is, don't you dare believe for a minute that things can't get worse. Don't you dare believe for a minute that in most of these General Assemblies, especially in the South, that they are going to stop with limiting a woman's right to choose. Please understand, and they said this on the floor of the South Carolina House, they ain't finished yet. Just like Clarence Thomas conveniently omitted Loving v. Virginia when he talked about what needed to be revisited. That was not one of them. But the fact that he is interested, and the majority of the court, in spite of what Chief Justice Roberts is saying, seems to be interested in revisiting this idea of same-sex marriage, of all the gains that have been made over the last few decades. They aren't satisfied with just overturning Roe. It appears to me that they want to overturn every right that was ever granted. The South Carolina General Assembly is no exception. I think they are the example of the rule. And we just got to understand what's at stake. A lot of people say, well, it's abortion. I don't want to worry about that. But, I will just remind people of that phrase. First they came for the Christians. I wasn't a Christian and I didn't speak up because I wasn't. Then they came for the Jews, the Catholics, blah, blah, blah. At the very end, they came for me, and there was nobody left to speak up. So we got to use our voice.
Greg Carr.
Thank you, Roland. Thank you so much. And Representative Gilda Cobb Hunter, I want to tell you how much of a pleasure it is for me to hear this conversation and to be able to speak with you just for a couple of minutes, because I watched Riveted all night. That night in 2015. I make my students at Howard watch that debate that y'all had. I read when you said you had that little U.S. flag on your desk, so you never had to look up at that damn Confederate battle flag and pledge allegiance in that legislature, sister. So I want to thank you on behalf of everyone. I still watch you all, and I couldn't turn away that night on C-SPAN watching y'all have that battle. And so my question is really about South Carolina. You're there from Orangeburg. A lot of friends on faculty at Claflin and South Carolina State. And I'm glad South Carolina State beat Jackson State in Atlanta. And I'm sorry what happened to your Rattlers as a Tennessee State Tiger. I'm sorry what Jackson State did to the Rattlers, but you struck and struck again in that legislature to borrow from Florida A&M. Fred Humphreys was my president of Tennessee State too. I want to ask you very specifically about the power, what South Carolina means to this U.S. experiment. I'm thinking about a speech Dr. Du Bois gave, W. Du Bois, in Columbia, actually, at Benedict. It's called Behold the Land in 1926. He said, the future of the United States lies in the South. And when I think of the future of the United States South, I think about South Carolina, the great victories y'all won in Reconstruction. The Lerone Bennett's book, Black Power USA, talks about that. What are the possibilities in South Carolina if we can just get together and get organized? Could you talk a little bit about that? And again, thank you. Much respect.
Sure, and I gotta say now, I still bleed orange and green. I love my Rattlers. I don't know who that team was that showed up in Miami. It was not the team that showed up in Chapel Hill the week before. But one thing, Doctor, about Rattlers, we don't care win, lose, or draw. We are gonna talk and we're gonna support our Rattlers. So I need to say that up front. I'm still diehard, bleed orange and green. In terms of South Carolina, and I'm not a native. I'm a native Floridian, but have lived here for a very long time. One of the things that I can appreciate about this state, and know that you know that because I know who you are and I'm familiar with your work, is that South Carolina, quite frankly, a lot of people know this state because the whole slave trade and all of that, the secession, the war, all that kind of good stuff. But what a lot of people don't know is that South Carolina at one point was a majority Black state. The legislature that I now serve in was filled with people of color, Black people after Reconstruction. And the public school system that we have here in South Carolina was developed, introduced, initiated by that Black Reconstruction General Assembly. And so there are gains that we still have today as a result of Black legislators who served. The potential here is great. Our numbers, the population, we used to be about 30% of the population. Unfortunately, thanks to an undercount in the census and a bunch of other things, the population officially, Black population, has dropped below 30%. That notwithstanding, we still have people in positions in this state who are doing good things. I don't think our electoral advantage or our electoral potential is what it needs to be, but that same thing can be said in other states because of gerrymandering, redistricting, and all of that. We've got opportunities here in South Carolina to make a change, but we have to understand all politics is local. And the problem that I think we have not dealt with sufficiently so that we can maximize our political power and influence is recognize that the bench building that the Republicans have done for years now is something we need to get back to. We need to understand the importance in a red state like South Carolina of blue dots, of bastions where Democrats are in control and in power. And that has happened at the local level in some of our urban areas, or at least what goes for urban here in South Carolina. In some of our smaller rural communities, you've got Black people, you've got Democrats who are in control and in charge. The one thing that would be great is if we could figure out how to get Black folk who are in positions of power to know what that means. And my point is this: we've got so many people who don't know the difference between position and power. You can have power and no position. You can have position and no power. And what I believe we need to spend more time talking about is how do you use power to help the people you care about. Too many of us are in positions of power and we just don't recognize it, and we're either scared to use it, don't know how to use it, or for whatever reason, it doesn't get used. And so you still have places where, even though you've had Black folk in position, South Carolina is one, as are many other states, the conditions have not changed. And so that suggests to me, okay, y'all got these jobs, y'all in these positions, but what do you got to show for it? And if you've been in a position for X number of years and there is no significant or appreciable, shall we say, difference in the people you represent, then there's something wrong with that picture.
All right, then. Representative Gilda Cobbs-Hunter, always glad to have you. Good to see you. Keep giving them hell, and I can guarantee you we'll do it right here.
Thank you, Roland. You stay safe.
I appreciate it. Thank you so very much. Same for you. Folks, it's so much news happening. We're going to end the show with this breaking news out of Michigan. The Michigan State Supreme Court has ordered the abortion and voting rights bills to be put on the ballot on November 8th. Remember, the Republicans had deadlocked trying to keep this out. The Michigan Supreme Court ruled that to enshrine abortion rights in the state constitution will go on the ballot in November. And the voting rights proposals, one of them includes mandating at least 9 days of early voting in Michigan. Those initiatives will go on the ballot this November. Republicans were doing all they could to stop this. It failed because the Supreme Court has now ruled. This right here is what we have consistently said. Again, Reese, Erica, and Greg, why you got to vote on the local level, city level, county level, state level, federal level, because by having a Supreme Court with this ruling, now Republicans who are trying to screw folks over by deadlocking those election boards and canvassers board, now they got to bow by the state constitution.
That's right.
If it passes.
Well, no. But here's the deal. Remember, they were first of all, but the fact that people get to actually vote on it, Republicans were trying to stop that. You got to remember, in Michigan, they passed a nonpartisan redistricting commission to draw districts. The Michigan legislature came back and said, we're going to ignore them. So what the folks were fighting for is let the people decide. I thought that's what Republicans actually believe in.
No, they believe in white supremacy. And they don't have it, as Erica said. They got white nationalism. But just to reiterate what we just heard Gilda Cobb-Hunter talk about, the blue dots in this red field. There aren't red states and blue states. Take out DNR. They are human beings and they're white nationalists. And they live all over.
Yep.
If they come out in Detroit, if they come out in Flint, if they come out in all of the cities, then this will pass. And you saw the Supreme Court of Michigan the other day block the trigger law that they put in place years ago, anticipating turning off Roe. Roland, you framed this, and you know you write about it now. You know, the Federalist Society, they're playing a long game. But what we heard Cobb-Hunter talk about is really the game we have to play. She talked about building the bench, developing that leadership that will then run for elective office in addition to community organizing. You know, all that works together. Michigan is not Louisiana or Texas or Mississippi. While those states have incredible potential to get people organized and to move forward, Michigan will not wait for them. The United States of America is not a nation. It is many different places, and there's a real fight going on. This is heartening because the rule of law, as I said before, we're going to have a rule of law. Michigan is demonstrating what it can look like if people will get out and push. Neighboring Wisconsin, those white nationalists have hijacked their Supreme Court and the federal and state legislature. It's going to be more difficult with them, particularly with federal fire. But again, just going back to what Representative Cobb-Hunter said, don't give up because you're in a state that when you turn on commercial news, entertainment, media, they've painted it red. Because if your street, your neighborhood, your community doesn't look like that, you can stitch together with other people and do something about it. And this is just a great example of what not giving up can bring you to the edge of. Now, as Reese said, they got to vote, they got to pass it. I mean, you got to get this ball over the finish line.
Don't just focus on federal politics. You got to focus on state, Reese.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, focus on local election. But we say it all the time. School boards, focus on even sheriffs. Some of them are elected. Focus on your mayor, focus on your city council, focus on your state representatives, focus on your state senators. There are states where you have a Democratic governor, but you have a Republican legislature like Pennsylvania. And so leave no stone unturned. The other side isn't doing that. We got to do the same thing.
Erica?
Ralph Ellison said it best, that there are few people in the world as dangerous as sleepwalkers. I think that throughout the conversations we've had and the guests that we've had on, that the dangers of sleepwalking are quite evident. And so I hope people do not entertain and party themselves into an apartheid that they they will say that they weren't prepared for because it's been messaged. Folks, get registered, get ready, vote early if you can, and make sure you engage and bring people with you.
All right, folks, that is it for us. Man, we had a whole lot to cover, but we went over time today. But look, we had stuff to definitely focus on. Let me thank Reese. Let me thank Erica. Let me thank Greg for being on our panel today. All of you for watching as well. The numbers kept building. Almost hit 4,000 simultaneously on YouTube, getting our numbers back. Y'all might remember in 2020, we were hitting almost 10,000 folks watching live on the YouTube channel. Spread the word, pass the word, folks. Ain't nobody else doing what we're doing. And I keep telling y'all this. It was 4 years ago on Sunday when we launched Roland Martin Unfiltered. September 4th, 2018. It was a whole bunch of folks who were saying it wasn't going to work. I was out of my mind. It was a whole bunch of folk who said that, oh my God, it would fail. Well, guess what? We're 4 years in, and we've grown this YouTube channel from 157,000 subscribers to right now we have 881,330. We want to hit we would love to have that many downloads of the Black Star Network app. Folks, what we are trying to build here is something that is Black owned, that is independent, that we don't have to bow down to anybody, covering our stories. You know, and when we have voices able to come on and share their perspectives, you know, I remember when people told me, man, you put Reese on? She cussed too much. I was like, y'all tripping. But again, it's perspective. And so that's what it's all about. And so having Erica, having Greg on, I keep telling y'all got to remember, me and Greg started with a fight at 12 Years a Slave. Where the Howard people were like, Greg Carr take you out. I said, I ain't scared of no damn Greg Carr. Bring your ass on the show.
He take you out.
Yes, sir.
I said, bring your ass on the show. Well, he's been on the show for the last 4 years. That actually happened. Y'all think I'm lying. That actually happened. And so, again, we created this platform to give other folks voices. That's why when y'all watch, look, Tiffany Cross had me on her show on Saturday. Again, her first opportunity to speak on air was when I had my TV One show. That's the whole point. You create opportunities for other people. So that's why y'all get to see Reese, she be on Clay Kane's show, Sirius XM cutting her check. So, again, it's creating of the opportunity. And so we need your support in doing this as we're building this. Black Star Network was 1 year old on Sunday. And I told y'all, I'm literally negotiating right now. We hope to have our 24-hour fast channel up by the middle of October in time for midterm elections. We're going to have that night a minimum of 6 hours of live coverage of the midterm elections, similar to what we did the presidential election in 2020, the same as the midterm election in 2018. And so I'm going to say this again. What we're doing right now, Byron Allen not doing. Essence is not doing. Black Enterprise is not doing. Ebony is not doing. Blavity is not doing. The Black Press of America is not doing. Nobody is doing what we're doing. Folks said it could not be done, so your support absolutely matters. So please download our app. Again, it's right now. It's more than 3,000 of y'all watching on YouTube. 3,000 y'all should be downloading the Black Star Network app. And so Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. And again, your dollars matter. We need $100,000 a month between now and the end of the year to meet our goals, folks. And so we don't charge subscribers. It's free. Let me say it again. It's free. This show is free. Faraji Muhammad's show is free. Greg's show, Deborah's show, Jackie's show, Stephanie's show, Rolling with Roland. All those shows are free. But trust me, paying staff ain't free. Paying airline tickets ain't free. Paying hotels and per diem ain't free. When equipment breaks, trust me, that ain't free. It all has to get paid. And so we need your support. Yeah, we're giving them hell, trying to target these advertisers. I've been giving these progressive groups hell when it comes to political ad spending. But the bottom line is we can't count on. We got zero last week. And we're gonna get zero this week. It's a good bet we're gonna get zero next week. But we still have to be able to cover the issues that matter. And so again, if our fan base, 20,000 of our fans, this is real simple. 20,000 of our fans give us $50 each for the year. That's $4.19 a month. You can't even get a Happy Meal at McDonald's for $4.19 a month. $4.19 a month, 13 cents a day. That's all it costs. Then we're able to do what we are doing. So you can send a check or money order to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com. Roland@RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. I got a show in development right now, a daily show hosted by our sister. We got a cooking show in development. We got a fitness show in development. Y'all, that ain't gonna happen. That ain't gonna happen unless you give us your support. Thanks a bunch. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Ho! And what happens in Black culture. We're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff.
So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
When we invest in ourselves, our glow, our vision, our vibe, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure. When we invest in ourselves, we all shine. Together, we are black beyond measure.